Hey there, sports history fan. This is Ross Bliley, the host of the Pigskin Tales podcast. Are you looking for that perfect, unique gift for your sports-loving child or grandchild? Or maybe you're looking for one. Well, I got something very unique for you. It's a racket. It's the ultimate device for the ultimate fan. It's perfect for any time you need to make some noise. What it is a 7-inch compact megaphone. It's got 8 powerful adjustable LED lights, noisemakers. Plus, you can design it all you want to match your team's colors. So get on out there and let's get loud. Bring a racket to your next game or competition to cheer on your favorite team or athlete. To pick up your racket today, head to myracket.com. That's myrakit.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
The Rose Bowl. The game that inspired the college football bowl season has a long and storied history. The stadium itself is 100 years old, and in celebration of it, Pigskin Dispatch is assembling some of the top historians and authors to share the memories, people, and events that make the granddaddy of them all the special game that it is. Enjoy this Rose Bowl memory from pigskindispatch.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And this month, as we have been doing so often, it is the portal of Rose Bowl history, celebrating 100 years of a Rose Bowl stadium. Started playing games there in 1923, and this 2023 game, which we now know will be between the Utah Utes and the Penn State Nittany Lions in the 109th Rose Bowl. Well, we're going to go back and cover some of the Rose Bowls just to try to keep them in consecutive order of how they were played. We're going to cover some of these Rose Bowls, the 1930 through 1933 Rose Bowls. In this segment, these games weren't really as close, didn't have any big plays or memorable moments to them, but we're going to make sure that people remember it because we're here to preserve football history, and in particular Rose Bowl history. Before we get into that, let's make sure that you know about our daily newsletter. We have a newsletter that comes through our Pigpen Sports. That is Pigskin Dispatch. That is jerseydispatch.com. Both podcasts that go to both those sites, and our audio drama that we are a part of, Orville Mulligan Sports Writer, as well as many items that are posted onto sportshistorynetwork.com. We tell you about all of those each and every day, what's coming out new at 6:30 a.m. in your email inbox basket. So easy to sign up for. Go to the show notes of this very podcast, or go to pigskindispatch.com or jerseydispatch.com. Now, after a series of competitive and exciting Rose Bowl contests in the 1920s, the new decade that included the Great Depression coming on in 1929 really had some real stinkers. We will not have to tell individual stories about each, but we're going to cover the 1930 through 1933 Rose Bowl game highlights right here in this one episode. Now, first of all, the 16th Rose Bowl. We'll pick up right where we left off. It was played on January 1st, 1930, and this Rose Bowl featured Southern Cal and the University of Pittsburgh. Now, Jock Sutherland's 1929 Panthers edition averaged 29.1 points per game as they accumulated a 9-0 record to earn the invite into the granddaddy of them all. USC did even better under Coach Howard Jones, as they had led the nation with an average of 41.0 points in every game. Quite a scoring machine, especially back there in the 1930 season. USC came out of the gate in the game garnering a 4-touchdown lead by halftime. Now, Pitt slowed them down a little bit in the second half and even managed to move the ball and score also, but it was way too late as the Trojans pounded the Panthers 47-14 to win that 16th Rose Bowl. Russ Saunders passed and ran all over Pitt in the win, and he was given the most valuable player honors later in 1953 for these great feats that he did in that Rose Bowl game. So USC and Howard Jones as their coach against Pitt and Jock Sutherland. We're going to have that matchup coming again here later in this episode in another Rose Bowl edition. But before we get to that, let's go to the 17th Rose Bowl. This is one that may have been considered a match made for a title, as the 17th Rose Bowl played on New Year's Day 1931 in Pasadena. Well, this featured two undefeated teams, Alabama and Washington State. Now, it could have been a classic, especially with these matchups, the undefeateds coming in here, probably the two best teams in the nation, at least the best in the East, best in the West. Well, that is what most people, including the Rose Bowl Selection Committee, thought when they handed out the invites. Sometimes, though, things just don't go to plan. The Crimson Tide dominated the game over the Huskies. The Tide cruised to a 24-0 win, and Tide quarterback John Campbell was the retroactive MVP. The attendance was 60,000 people. Remember, this is during the Depression, so people were still going out to California, catching a ball game, even though they might not have a whole lot of money to spare. But things may have changed here in a little bit. The 18th Rose Bowl took place New Year's Day 1932 in Pasadena, featured the 11-0 Tulane Green Wave. So a new team from the East comes in that hadn't been there before, and we don't see Tulane in there very often. I believe this is their only Rose Bowl appearance. They were coached by Bernie Bierman, and they were playing the USC Trojans once again. Coach Howard Jones sitting there with a 9-1 record on the season, still doing very well in the Pacific Coast Conference, as it was called back then. The Trojans jumped out to an early lead on Ray Sparling touchdown, and then two by Ernie Pinkert, plus a 2-yard touchdown run with the 3 on Johnny Baker's PATs. They got 3 more points there, and they survived 2 second-half Tulane touchdowns to win it 21-12. And a 1953 expert panel chose that Pinkert was the game's most valuable player, and again, they hit over 50,000 in attendance on that game. Now the last Rose Bowl we'll talk about in this segment, the 19th. It was the Tournament of Roses Committee invited Pitt to play USC once again, a repeat of Rose Bowl number 16 for this 1933 edition of the annual New Year's game in Pasadena. The coaching minds of Jock Sutherland and Howard Jones met back in 1930 with similar results. It was the Trojans 35-0 for their best second Rose Bowl win in 2 seasons. Now, Cotton Warburton, he rushed for 2 scores, while teammates Werhunt, Homer Griffith, and Barber each crossed the goal line stripe once. USC was retroactively recognized as the 1932 national champions by most of the bodies that did that, including the Berryman, Billingsley, Bone, Dunkel, College Football Research Association, Helms, Holgate, National Championship Foundation, Poling, and Williamson. And that was all retroactive. They also were claimed with the new Dickinson system that came out that year. They scored the most points in that Dickinson system and ended up winning an award called the Newt Rockne Award. Remember, this is a few years after Newt Rockne's death, the great coach, and they were given that award as the national champion. So in 1953, as far as the most valuable player, that same expert panel chose Homer Griffith as the most valuable player. Remember, he scored a touchdown in this game and threw a touchdown pass as well during that game. So great game by him. 35-0 was the result on that. So USC goes 2-0 against the Pitt Panthers in these 4 games, and they also had defeated the team that came and played them on from Tulane, and mixing that in the middle, Alabama, beating out Washington State in that 17th Rose Bowl. So that is your sports history, your Rose Bowl history. Just want to catch you up on some things. We don't want to skip too many of these games and keep you in consecutive order. So when we come back in the next episode, we'll be at the 20th Rose Bowl. This is the one played in 1934, and it's a good one, and we have it for you coming up. So make sure you tune back in here for next time for this great episode. And we're going to be covering right through here till New Year's Day, when the last the 109th Rose Bowl is played between Utah and Penn State. So, till tomorrow, everybody, have a great Gridiron Day. That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, I'm Joe Ziemba, the host of the podcast When Football Was Football, and I'm pleased to announce that I'm partnering with the Sports History Network to give away 2 copies of my new book, Bears vs. Cardinals, the NFL's Oldest Rivalry, published by McFarland Books. To enter this contest, simply go to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways. Winners will be announced on December 19th, and we'll make sure that your personalized copy is received before December 25th. And we hope you'll enjoy tales in the book, such as the time a player for the Cardinals actually owned the Chicago Bears, or how members of the Bears faced down Al Capone. You'll meet a fullback who became a spy and learn about the Bears who partied with presidents. Once again, to enter this free giveaway, go to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways. Thank you.